My next guest is Mike Levesque. I love that. It's got a silent S. Mike is with Hitachi Energy. What's your role with Hitachi? And tell me how you got into it.
Yeah, I am the Senior Marketing Communications Manager.
Senior?
For Transformers business in North America.
Okay.
That's right.
That's the longest title I've ever heard.
I doubt that. I
Especially
doubt
in
that.
this industry.
Yes, but if we can put more acronyms in there,
Yeah.
I can do that. TR-NAM, Marcom for TR-NAM. That's
right.
a lot shorter. And I've been with the company for 6 years.
Okay.
I'm based out of Raleigh.
All right.
But before that, I actually worked for similar companies like GE, and I was up in New England, in Connecticut. And much like everybody else in some of those New England states, we wanted to migrate south to where the warm weather is. And the good thing about marketing communications is if you have the basic fundamentals of how to do that job, you can do it in any industry. And I also think that I got a little bit lucky to be in this industry at this time because it's a great industry to be in.
Well, great segue, Mike. Thank you so much. We have seen more change in our industry in the last 5 to 7 years, the time that you've been in it, than we've seen in the 100 years beforehand. It is just like the hockey stick of change where we're now at the inflection point and we've come up and we're going, okay, where do we go from here? I'll ask you about that in a minute. But we've seen tremendous change in the industry. From your perspective, and I know you love to talk about people, but before we talk about people, what is the change that people are having to adapt to?
Yeah, from my point of view, I would say we're having some of the most challenging discussions with customers that we've ever had to have.
Okay.
And it's no surprise that key theme is about capacity and lead times. I've heard you mention it in previous interviews you've done, and we're having that conversation at Hitachi Energy also. We have a limited amount of capacity, and we're growing just like everybody else, but you can only fit so much into that factory at a time, and we're actually having some very difficult discussions where what is the right balance in that factory? Of course, everybody would love to have all data centers go through your factory, but really utilities are at our hearts also. So we want to have the proper mix of utilities, of industry, of data centers, and all those because we have really strong relationships with our customers and we're really doing our best to make them all happy.
As a result of that, the fact that we are the demand curve, and it was back in the 70s and 80s when actually in the 60s, 70s, when companies began to put more capacity on, they began to build plants. We had more transformer manufacturing than we had. And then it did like this because the demand curve dropped, right? They don't want to do it again. So I kind of get that, okay, how do we add capacity? But let's not get over capacity because they're not going to start calling on it. But I think everybody has realized now it's a growing end capacity. We don't see an end in sight. It's not like, oh, I'll get caught up in 3 years. It might actually be 4 years in 3 years, right? And that just exacerbates the problem for the industry. If you're trying to meet a demand curve where the power demand, because of electrification and everything else is going up, the demand for transformers, two things happen. You got to have more transformers, and you got to keep the ones that are there alive. What do you see in terms of that? We know the mix on the demand curve. Talk about what does Hitachi see as it relates to keeping the ones we have alive?
We have a lot of people that really try to look into that crystal ball.
Okay.
And I think the whole industry has been surprised in the past, especially within the past few years, of who can anticipate what we see now. So we want to be able to make the smartest investments we can as a company. And there's different ways to do that. Of course, we would all love new factories, would all love to expand the factories that we have. But if we're going to try to be as smart about it, why don't we take advantage of the global footprint that we already have in place? So we're working with a lot of our customers to say, we have these designs available. If this factory here can't meet your lead time, then let's explore other factories within our global footprint. So we're really leveraging on that to make sure we're investing money in the right place and be smart just in case we do get surprised.
That's good. Good answer. It's very lucky to have factories in a lot of different places so you can move. But I would imagine that every locale is also having a demand problem, right? Because now all those factories are saying, yeah, You think I'm going to ship you one when I've got 10 people lined up to take the ones I've got? But that's a different situation.
Our global factories do like us in North America a lot more than they have in the past.
Really?
We're making them very happy.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Keep everybody busy.
There we are.
I want to switch gears a little bit, because as a company, you got to look ahead. You got to say, what are the things that are changing? We know that one of the changes that's taken place is as we've entered, as wind and solar and all of these renewables have come online. You mentioned data centers. Data centers are rapidly growing, and they have a different transformer type need. But we see a lot more harmonics and transients in it's basically introducing an inverter-based system on top of a transformer system, and they're colliding. It is aging the existing infrastructure more as a result. I know a long question, but the question is this: what can you do as it relates to managing an inverter-based system when you're a transformer manufacturer, primarily trying to meet the need of your customers? And do you, or are you just making the spec?
I can tell you from my point of view, I have a secret tool that I use for just that situation.
Oh, I
Because
love it.
I'm in marketing communications.
Okay.
And what I do when that happens is I send our application engineers to have a discussion for us. Even though it's a bit of a joke, but there's a lot of seriousness to this, because when we talk about how I got into the industry, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand if they're not in the industry is transformers are not all the same. There's a lot of different variations, customization, all for transformer manufacturing. And what we try to do is early engagement.
Yeah.
We have our applications, we have our engineering, we have our experts work directly with the customers to make sure that they're providing the right scope and specs for whatever their application is. So it's really hard to just say it's a quick answer like that, but what it is, it's early engagements, early conversations, and finding out what the best design is for their application.
Well, it's interesting because that brings up a point, and this is about people. We're going to get to your passion for people. Back in the day, I'm an engineer, right? So back in the day, we used to be able to, whatever it is, whatever the person's specifying, hey, I need a transformer. We could talk to you, engineer to engineer, could say, what are you going to do with it? And we could help you develop the specs. And then the bean counters came in and said, no, that's too much of a close relationship. You're not allowed to talk to them. So we kicked the engineers from the supplier side out, and then it was just raw spec. And I would look at things and go, that's stupid. I mean, but I couldn't talk to the engineer because it was just, no, bid on it. Well, I'm not going to bid on it. Or I'll bid and I'll make it 40% higher because what you want is stupid and it won't work, right? And I do mean that. You've seen it, right? Now we're moving back, so the pendulum's swinging from here. You're not allowed to talk to them like, oh, please, God, talk to them. Because what we don't is, you're not going to bid on it. We've seen a shift back, and that's your application engineer, and that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Right.
So thank you, because I'm passionate about that.
Well, it's been very important. There's myself that I'm not an engineer, so sometimes I don't speak that technology language that's really needed to make sure that spec is as it should be.
Right.
And that almost even goes to diversity, where we have different people working together. We have business developers, we have engineers, and we have different personalities that can work with the customers, different personalities, because maybe we're dealing with procurement now and not just their engineers. So it's really getting the best people together that we can to have those conversations. We would never ever say that's stupid, but we say maybe we have something better for you.
I can say it's stupid, Mike. Because I'm not in that anymore, right?
Right.
But
Right,
I saw too many applications that you'd look at it, or specifications, you go, now what is he trying to do with this? Because this is not going to work.
Right.
But the poor engineer can't learn from us. Now, we always found a way around it. But
of course.
Anyway, I want to talk about the future. And I know a passion of yours is people. Talk a little bit about the problem, why we're having such a problem. Number one, getting people, especially in our industry. We're not the sexiest industry, and so there's a lot of people that are choosing especially engineers, they're choosing data scientists, other areas. Talk a little bit about the problem, and then what you see as some of the solutions that we need to apply to fix those problems.
Yeah. Well, I do think that there's a lot of crazy people like me that do think that this is a sexy industry to be in. This is a great time to be in anything dealing with
You're
power
in
grid.
marketing. Of course you are.
Of course I do, and I mean it. That's what the scary part.
Yeah.
But things are changing. We talked about capacity. Capacity will continue to be the theme of transformers for a while.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do, because we do have to accelerate that energy transition for the future grid, and to do that we need people. Because when we talk about all this capacity that we need, you can build as many transformer factories as you want, you can expand the transformer factories that you have, but you can't produce any more transformers without the people.
Right.
And I've heard you also talk about this before, is transformer manufacturing is a real hands-on process.
Oh, yeah.
So we're putting actions in place to make sure we can attract new talent, we retain the employees that we have, and make it an inclusive place for everybody. No matter what, we want it to be inclusive so everyone feels welcome to work here. And that's just one step. But what else we're doing is we're taking it a step further, and we're getting involved with the communities that our factories are in.
Oh, that's good.
It is. We've hired a community relations manager at every Transformer North American factory we have.
Really?
Because our factories, majority of our factories have been in place for more than 50 years in North America and all over the world. And we see generations of families working for Hitachi Energy in the companies we were before. You know, Westinghouse became ABB, ABB Power Grids is now Hitachi Energy. And we have generations of families that have been with us for years.
Yeah.
So by getting more involved in the community, we're not only getting our name recognized, we're supporting the people that are in that community, their families, the kids, the schools, getting people to know what we do and think that it can be an interesting job.
Yeah.
Right out of school, into college, and then come work for Hitachi Energy to do what we do because we need them. Okay. So we're doing things like that to make sure that people know that they are welcome here, we need good people, and this is a really good industry to be in.
It's interesting. I think the best transformer ever made was made in 1976 by Westinghouse. Now, I don't know which transformer it is, but boy, those things they are built like tanks.
Yeah.
They're incredibly long life. They're the ones that will outlive anything we're building today. I really believe that. Westinghouse was, to me, one of the stars every time we see transformers, and you see that old nameplate, and you go, oh, wait a minute, that beast will run for 75 years, not 50, but anyway. And when I say Westinghouse, so your pedigree is really, really good. And it's good to hear that you're taking care of the communities and honoring that pedigree that's going on. So you've kind of done this a little bit, and I've allowed you. You've talked about we, and you've talked about it. Okay, now let's talk about Hitachi specifically.
Hitachi Energy.
Okay.
One of my favorite topics.
Hitachi Energy.
That's right.
I keep saying Hitachi, and you don't like that. You want me to add energy.
I don't mind. I don't mind. Well, it's interesting because we know that Hitachi itself has been a company for over 100 years.
Right.
They're well established. Now, Hitachi Energy is a relatively new company because we officially became Hitachi Energy, officially broke away from our past in 2021.
Okay.
There's a lot of great things we can talk about, technology, our products, our solutions, but I can tell you from my point of view, what's really nice to see is we're seeing a culture that's getting established in the company. And it's not top down, it's not forced culture into the company. We can see that culture grow. Since 2021 up to 2024, where we are now, it's a good feeling. We're focusing on employees, we're focusing on continuous improvement, quality. It's very nice to see, and it makes me proud to be with Hitachi Energy because I see it happening. You can't force a culture on any organization, but to see it blossom to what it's doing now, I mean, if you were to search Hitachi Energy, the hashtag Hitachi Energy on LinkedIn, to see how active we are on LinkedIn, incredibly proud to see so many posts from almost all of our factories, not just in North America and globally, all with the same theme that it's really a great place to be right now.
Excellent. In my opinion, culture trumps strategy, right? Culture is everything. Talk to me a little bit about the culture that you're built and you're trying to build at Hitachi Energy.
You know, when we talk about culture, if we were to Google what culture is, I don't even think I could tell you exactly what the definition is, but I do know. Yeah, exactly. But I can tell you that I'm not building it. We're not building it. Our leadership is not. Well, actually, our leadership does have a hand in it.
Right.
Because our leadership is approachable and they engage with our employees.
Okay.
So they have a little bit of responsibility. And I think maybe every employee has a bit of responsibility and culture, but we're not forcing it. It's building on its own. When Hitachi Energy started in 2021, October 2021, we almost had a fresh start. We had a new outlook on the industry. We had new logos. We had new rules and regulations, but we still had our history. And we took and just built upon everything that we've had, our whole legacy. And we talked about legacy. We have a long history that we're very proud of.
Yeah.
But from my point of view, when I get to deal with all these different people from across North America, and I see smiling faces, and I see a lot of pride in what they do.
Right.
So we're not building it, but I'm just watching it grow.
Right.
And it's the most proud thing you can see. We're not perfect, but I can tell you that we're doing just about everything we can to make sure that culture grows organically and put as much focus on the people as we can. Because without people, you're not going to have transformers.
One of the transformers still hand built to this day. You need it's a very good, unskilled but to skilled craftsmanship, because it's unskilled. You don't bring somebody in who knows how to do windings, right? You teach them how to do windings, but you bring somebody in who has a basic skill set to do that. The same is true as a lot of different of the labor-intensive things you do with transformers. Getting more of those people is harder and harder every day. So you've got an installed base of people, and if not too many of them leave, you don't have to replace too many. But how do you recruit the next generation? Because that's tough for a lot of people right now, especially of the skilled or unskilled trades.
Yeah, recruiting is a challenge for us as much as it is for other people in the industry and outside of the industry. We're doing a few things. We are going back to the basics where we're having referral programs for if any of our employees bring in a friend, a colleague, a family member to work, we have a referral program where they get money for bringing in other people. We're establishing employee resource groups. We call them ERGs. ERGs are very important because we talked about this shift, not just in ages. So we have old people, we have young people, we have every age people, but we also have people from all over the world in every diversity and every interest.
Yeah.
So these ERGs are a place where people can get together with like-minded people towards a similar goal. And whatever ERG you can think of, our company is opening to establishing that group to make sure they all feel welcome. I can tell you myself, I'm part of two ERGs. I'm part of the Military and Allies ERG group because I'm a former Marine, and I'm also part of the Women in Energy ERG that we have at Hitachi Energy. It is a huge group of really supporting women, and I'm proud to be an ally for that.
Okay,
And we have a bunch of other
you're
ones.
You're not a woman. You were a Marine, but you're not a woman.
But thank you for noticing.
But you can be in that group, right?
Well, it's not just for women, but it's important to have the allies because together as a team, we can make sure that we are employing more women into the organization and making sure women are promoted into leaders.
So I have to point something. One of our brands is Women in Power Systems, and we had some folks in our company that were passionate about that. They were women, and I said, go for it. That's yours. You make it happen. That became an ERG. It is now a community. The fastest growing, it's not that these others, they're growing. That's the fastest growing part of our community. And we really want to connect, and I know we connect with Hitachi Energy on your women in engineering? Or?
Women in Energy.
Women in Energy. And we work with Seagray and IEEE, and everybody has got there. So what we want to do is we want to communicate what everybody else is doing. And it's fascinating because that's another whole 50% of the population we could recruit into work, right?
Yeah.
If we just said, hey, look, women in engineering, women in power systems, women in energy is a great place to be.
It is.
It's no longer about STEM. We've been overdoing STEM for a long time. Now we need to be talking about breaking through some of the glass ceilings. And I'm glad to see that. One of the things we're producing is women in power in power. Women in power.
General.
In power.
And there you go.
Leadership.
Yes.
And we're seeing it not just in HR and some of the traditional places, but particularly in engineering, things like that. I love it. Anyway, so I'm glad you're doing that. Last but not least, we're here at Doble, Doble Client Conference. This is their largest ever. There's 91st, and they have 1,300 people here, so they've got a lot. We've only been here about mid, so you can't give a, hey, here's the end of it, this is what we've, but what are you experiencing so far with this conference?
You know, there's a lot of trade shows and conferences throughout the year in every location, but Doble is one of our favorites for a few reasons. One, of course, it's well organized. This is the 91st event that they've had here. Well, I don't know how long it's been in Boston, but
I
for
think
91
they've been in Boston forever.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, they're getting very good at it. They're getting very good at it. It's well organized, and it really brings together not just the industry, but customers and suppliers together.
Yeah.
We're all facing the same challenges as suppliers, and there's no animosity between any suppliers. If anything, we'll help each other out. And we say hi, we see each other, we shake hands. And we all see such a diverse group of customers come here. It's always been a lot of utility, but now we're starting to see other segments come in here too, which is great to see because everyone has an interest in transformers or any type of equipment that maybe Doble equipment would be testing.
Right.
So we're really happy to see it grow. We hope it continues to grow, and Hitachi Energy will continue to come here to make sure that we position ourselves in front of those customers and also strengthen our relationships with other suppliers.
Excellent. One of the things that Doble tries to do is what you spoke about that Hitachi's doing. You've got these application engineers that are helping people write specs, helping people make the right decisions when they go out and try to buy transformers or they're trying to buy any piece of equipment. And that's very important to have the supplier and the vendor and the purchaser get that procurement person to let them come together. And that's kind of what this does. It lets people, come together. Last question. Hitachi Energy, 2001, the relaunch of what is now the new Hitachi Energy, takes a lot of history. Just give me a little bit of what that history is about. I want you to go back to Westinghouse, because I love Westinghouse. Go back to Westinghouse. It went from Westinghouse to, and you bought different companies. When you brought Hitachi Energy together, it's a global company, right?
Very global.
And you separated it out. What are some of the things that you plugged in there that are not just about transformer manufacturing?
As a marketing communications professional,
Right.
I can tell you, I've been with the company for 6 years, but one of the things that we hear about the most, and probably one of the things that I focus on when I'm creating something or trying to promote the value of what we do, and a lot of that is our legacy. But what's really interesting to me is my current manager was from Westinghouse. He worked at Westinghouse, and he used to sell transformers.
Oh, I need to talk.
You've
to him.
interviewed him in the past.
Have I really?
You have.
Okay.
You have. It was a very good interview.
He didn't know. I didn't know he was with Westinghouse, or I would have riffed with him.
Yeah. But we take a lot of pride in our legacy.
Okay.
And there's a lot of things that, I still have to learn, but having a history of over 100 years of Westinghouse, of Coleman Electric, of ABB, and Hitachi Energy, it's very important to look back at that with respect and everything we learned and take all that we've learned in the past and keep getting better and take that into the future.
Yeah, because as much as I like Westinghouse, I like ABB. And I think ABB...
And I hope you like Hitachi Energy now.
And I do. Well, if all you are is just the grown-up child of these things, of course I like you now. But it is a great legacy. That's an incredible legacy to have. So who was the person that I interviewed?
His name is Bill Miller.
Oh, I remember Bill.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Westinghouse. Yeah. My guest has been Mike Levesque, and that was brilliant. And thank you so much. I appreciate what you're doing for the industry, Mike.
Thank you, Alan.